Just waiting for Toni-Michelle. There she is. Hey, Toni-Michelle. How are
Hey,
you?
how are you?
I'm good. My earrings match your t-shirt.
I was like, ooh, I should have grabbed some hoops, but you're wearing the hoops for me, so let
I'm
me
wearing
see
the
my little
hoops.
stud.
I'm wearing the hoops for you.
Come
Wait,
on.
people think you're a stud with that haircut?
You say what?
Do people think you're a stud with that haircut? No.
Some people think that I give, a little bisexual lesbian vibes.
It doesn't matter because I told you that everybody has a crush on you anyway. Because as everybody might know that are watching, thank you for joining. Toni-Michelle is in the Future Trans documentary that we released last week, and I told her earlier this week that everybody in the crew, when we did a survey of who they were attracted to, like people who didn't even know her or people who didn't even met her, they were like, "Yeah, that Toni-Michelle."
Well, I
I
love it
mean, and
too.
it
I
was
love
like,
everybody.
listen, it was men, it was women, like everybody was like, yeah, Toni-Michelle, yeah.
Yeah. So tell
Um,
me, so I'm not tech me savvy. So tell me how I can share this live on my live. Can I do that? No, I can't do that.
I don't think you can do that, but what we're gonna do is we're gonna send you the video of this right afterwards.
Come
So
on.
y'all can post it, you can add it to your IG stories, like the whole thing. Like,
Okay.
so that's what we'll do. You should be able to since we're talking to you, like, I don't, but this is that.
Maybe I can just do like this.
Why don't you tell all your peeps to like on the other social media to join you?
Yeah.
Yeah, why don't you do that?
Yeah.
Except for Twitter, you're not really on Twitter.
I'm really not on anything. And I have to get better. I have to get better. I believe that there's so much power in being in the moment. And I believe that, whatever you're supposed to learn, it is right there for your eyes, your spirit, your body to witness. So I try to be present for God's miracles, okay? I
It's
try to be
true. It's
present
true.
for God's miracles. Oh, somebody's giving me something.
Nala said you can screen
Nala!
record with your iPhone. She can screen record with your iPhone as well. But I promise I'm gonna send you this, like, you know. Um,
I trust you. I trust the process.
so first of all, we all know we can tell by this interaction as to why you like, people bring you in to train because we automatically like to help to set the space and to tell us to be present. So I appreciate that. But first of all, happy Pride. And the reason
Happy
why
Pride!
And the reason why I wanted to talk to you today is several reasons. To me, you embody what Pride is all about, like how it started and how it's continuing. Because Pride began as a riot against police brutality led by trans and gender nonconforming and queer Black and brown femmes.
Yeah.
And so that's and you continue that tradition by being the executive director of the Solutions Not Punishment Collaborative down in Atlanta, Georgia, which is committed to abolition. You've helped to close the jail. You're helping to figure out what to do with the jail. And you continue the fight for trans liberation and liberation for all of us by battling against the carceral state, right?
Yeah.
And there's period. And there's nothing more pride than that. See, the light comes over me as I say that. There's nothing more pride than that, right? That's pride. That's what pride is all about.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering if you could tell us, we all know that right now, that this is a moment, another moment, probably the third wave, right, since 2015 or so of Black Lives Matter, 2014. And in this wave, there is greater concentration on our issues, right? Trying to center Black women, Black trans women. There was the Black Trans Black Trans March. The first one was actually in Atlanta, right? Right in Midtown.
Yes.
And then after that, the amazing one here in New York City with people that we know, like Raquel and Ian and a whole bunch of other people that drew so many. So that's a part of it. But we also continue to have police brutality in the midst of all of this. A couple of weeks ago, Ahmaud Arbery was shot and killed by police in ATL. And
Rayshard Brooks.
I'm sorry, Rayshard Brooks. Oh my God.
Yes,
it's
too
so
many. It's okay.
It's so many. It literally is so many. I'm sorry, Rayshard Brooks outside of Wendy's.
Yes.
And you were a part of the response. You decided to go out and protest. And before we talk about what happened, I'm wondering if you can tell us about your decision to protest while Black and trans, right? And there's so many complexities in that from, do we continue to show up for people who may or may not have shown up for us? Do we risk ourselves understanding that incarceration and dealing with police is a totally different experience for us? So I'm wondering if you can just talk about what happened and why you decided to hit the streets.
Yeah, for a few reasons, right? Number one, I believe in righteous rage. I believe in, I believe that you have to scream, you have to burn some shit down, you have to be with your people in a moment of war, in a moment of war, spiritual war. We have to be with each other so that we can witness our transformation and our fight, right? Because those are the memories that then sit with us when we go back home. It's like it's the energy that like breathes for us to get up to fight the next time when we know that we've been supported, when we've seen somebody else's fight, right? And so I love being on the ground with my people and supporting like the transformation of like rage and confusion to silliness and joy through chants and coordination, you know, with different formations. I think that that is, it's one of the most powerful experiences of protest and just community gathering. And so I love that shit. I always gotta have some of it. And so I went out there. The other piece is that I am the executive director of an organization that believes in abolition, that believes in community organizing and power building of Black people, right? And I have resources. And it is my duty and responsibility to provide ponchos, umbrellas, water, anything that I have, anything that we've gathered from all of y'all support. It is my duty and responsibility to get that out to the people and to yield my skills in any ways that I can. And so it is a part of my heartbeat. And I went out there, huh? And I love to see Black people be lit as fuck, especially in Atlanta. You know, I was ready. I love to see my niggas.
Well, first of all, when are Black people not lit in Atlanta?
That's right. So, you know, you gotta go and support. You gotta go and support. So that's why I went out there.
So you went out there. That's really interesting, right? Because a part of your personality is about actually bringing order, right? Because you said, I love the chaos and I love the transformation into joy. So that's actually, you like that process.
Yeah.
So can you talk about when you were out there? I actually saw part of the footage because when you were on Facebook Live, I actually watched a huge part of it when you were on. I was watching it live. People took to the interstate highway in Atlanta, the main one that goes through downtown, I-85, to block the traffic to protest Rayshard Brooks. And you were there, and you were in the mix of the people on the front line doing that. And so can you talk about what happened that night and then what happened to lead you to be detained by the police and the ramifications of that. And before you answer, I just wanted to say hi to Nala, hi to Hope Giselle, and a person.
Hey.
A person, Nina Simone, said that she was sending you love and that she'd love to see you out on the front lines all the time. So you're getting lots of love.
Yes, I also wanted to give a shout out to Annalise Singh, and all of the girls too.
Yeah.
I love y'all so much.
So talk to us about what happened that night when you went out there on I-85.
Yeah, so I went out there with a group of other organizers in Atlanta, like Devin Barrington Ward, Jonathan Light, Max Boykin, and there were other organizations and members of Song Southerners on New Ground, and just a host of other Atlanta activists and organizers. There were also white folks. White folks was out there.
A lot of white folks, yeah.
A lot of white folks were out there. And so I entered on the expressway, and, you know, y'all ready for a story? Here it go. I had to give y'all a story. So I entered on the expressway, and it was really lit, right? So you had, like, it's Atlanta, so you had a few Jeeps. You had all these cars. You had Black people just sitting outside their cars, waving things. They were really excited to really be a part of change. And then you had the line of people who were blocking the expressway. And it was really, really chaotic. So, of course, my first thing is to check in with people, right? I want to, like, see who is leading anything. If anybody's leading anything, I want to check in with them, see if they need support. And I want to make sure everybody who is on the front line know that they're on the front line.
How do people not know that the police were right in front of them? How do they not know they were on the front
You
line?
know, sometimes you don't know the what is the weight of what's happening.
Okay.
Sometimes you're just out there participating, you know.
Okay.
So you have, like, white people out there on the front line who are like, we're linking up because they're saying, put your body on the line. So they're out there putting their body on the line. They don't know what's about to happen. They just doing it. They just getting ready. And then you got Black folks who just like, yes, my nigga, we just motherfucking stopped the expressway. So they looking on the other side of the expressway, and, you know, it's just chaos, it's joy, it's all the things. But I noticed who was leading. She had an idea. I don't remember her name at the time, but she had the megaphone. And I saw a person from who works for the city of Atlanta, who is actually the programs director of our Reimagining the Atlanta City Detention Center program. Her name is Maria, and she was out on the front lines. I asked her, she saw me, she said, Toni-Michelle. I was like, what's going on? She said, we don't know. And I looked at 3 other people and I said, y'all know what's going on? They said, we don't know. So I immediately told other organizers that folks didn't know what was going on. So there was an organizer who went, Jonathan Lights, to speak with and start negotiations with the Georgia State Patrol. And in that time, you know, we coordinated folks to link up in a certain way and actually kind of calm down to kind of focus and really, you know, just get into formation. And once we got folks into formation, I went to support Jonathan in speaking with the police. And we were talking with police. There were officers who were engaged in the conversation that we were having. They gave us direction and said that we had about 15 minutes before they would begin to arrest folks. And Jonathan went back to let folks know that in 15 minutes, things will shift. Mm-hmm. Right. And so I stayed there present with police along with a few other guys. Particularly there were about 4 Black folks and about 3 white folks from the protest who were just around me. And then there were, if you go back to see the photo, there were police Black officers around and a few white officers. And so I began to talk directly to a white officer. There was this officer, the one who assaulted me, who really didn't give a fuck about what anybody had to say. So
Wow.
he was going around, he was, cursing at other protesters, yelling in their face. And while I was literally just talking to the officer just like this, he came out of nowhere and knocked my microphone out of my hand, and took my arm and pulled it back and started throwing me on the ground. So I felt his hand and his knee and my back, and as I was going to the ground, it was like it was happening so fast. I remember just saying to him, "I'm all right."
What?
Sorry. I just remember saying to him, I was like, "I'm all right." I just shook my head. I said, "I'm all right." And as soon as I said that, and he started pushing me down, um, what it felt like was that there was a pull, like someone was pulling him. And I believe that those were the other officers pulling him away from me. And then the black men that were standing there with me literally had grabbed me. They grabbed me from like his arms, and as the police officers pulled the patrol back, they pulled me forward and they ran me all the way back to the protest line.
Wow.
And I just remember just being so grateful and so nervous. I also remember going down and, like, funny story real quick. Two of my ancestors and my angels are Mary and Josephine. Those are my grandmas. And I named my titties after them. Okay. And so this is Josephine, honey. This is left right over here. Mary's right over here, honey. And as I was going down to the ground, I was just like, "Mama, I need you." That's all I remember saying. And I promise you, that brought me a little joy in the moment. But it felt like my ancestors just really had me. It felt like, I didn't trust that the police would do what they did, which was pull their own folks back and away from me. And I didn't trust, these black cis het men to come out of nowhere, right? And like
Facts.
pull me out of this situation and really run me to my safety. I didn't expect that at all. And there was a moment that when I prayed to my titties, when I was honoring my ancestors, I knew, I was like, I may be harmed really bad after this.
Yeah.
I may be harmed, but I wasn't, and I made it, and I ran away. When I came back, it was so funny because the police officer who I was talking to, and we were just having a conversation, he started calling me back on the megaphone. He was like, "Where's the young lady who this just happened to? Where's the young lady that this just happened to?" So people were like yelling for me and was like, "Toni-Michelle, they want to talk to you again. They want to talk to you again. They want to continue negotiating." And I went and I told him, I was like, "Did you see that?" He said, "Yes, I saw that, and I apologize."
Oh,
And
wow.
I was like, "Oh, okay, and what does that mean?" "I just want you to know that all of us aren't that bad." And I said, "But it is the power that you have to even do that to me. That means that you don't need a job, baby. You don't."
It's true.
And that's what we do when we're out there negotiating with police. We're educating them. They give us 15 minutes to get into formation or to get off the expressway. We're going to use 15 minutes to tell you why you should be out of a job and be defunded so that you can be prepared for it when it comes.
Yeah, it's really funny. So first of all, I didn't know anything about naming your titties until my 15-year-old cousins were like, "What did you name your titties?" I was like, "What?" And
Yes, you gotta name your
they
titties.
name their titties. That's so weird. Well, one of them did and one of them hasn't. So that's just one thing. So
So you don't, your titties are not named right now.
not yet. No.
Girl.
No, ma'am.
What do you imagine them being? Who are your ancestors? Who do they make it? Just let me take you through an exercise. Are you ready? Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, so go ahead and put your feet to the floor.
Wait, what am I doing? I put my feet where?
Flat on the floor, scoot up to your chair. If you're at home, go ahead. You could do this as well. We're just going to center ourselves real quick. And we're going to feel for a name. We're going to feel for, go ahead and just soften your gaze and your eyes. Take some deep breaths. Drop into your body. Relax your beautiful lips. If a smile comes, let it come.
Can I not smile at this moment?
Go ahead and smile. Go ahead and smile. And then when you get a chance, just put your right hand on your right breast. Yes. Just say, hey, girl.
Hey, girl.
Put your left hand on your left breast. Shake them on, honey. And then just let them bounce. And say, told y'all I was going to bump like this.
Told y'all I was going to bump like this.
So you got to wake them up. And the more you talk to them and the more you rub on them and the more all of that, they're going to come. It's going to come to you.
The names are going to come. Okay, I'm going to do that. I'll tell you when I get the name. It's really funny. Someone said that you were on here doing somatics.
I am.
Oh my God. So speaking of somatics, which is one of the ways in which we release trauma, one of the things that you said on Facebook was that this event was like in a certain way really traumatizing for you, or shook you up in some ways, and that you had to take a week to process it. Yes. What was triggering about it for you, and why did it take you a week to process it? Because it seems as if in some respects, you feel really positive about what happened in terms of how Black men stepped up for you, the police separated, your ancestors came to you in that moment. So can you just talk about like what the impact for the past week has been? Like, what was that like?
So all of those things are true. And I think that, one of the things that make me Toni-Michelle is just my ability to, again, be present with God's miracle, and to allow, and to have grace for myself and to be able to extend grace to other folks. And so with that, I am amazed and just anointed to be alive. So that is where the joy comes. That's where the positivity comes. It's like I came out of that not arrested, no scratch on my knees from hitting the ground.
Wow.
No scratches, and not harmed.
Wow.
I still feel his hands on my wrist, right? And I still feel, the tug, from my chest and my back, from being pulled to this way and being pulled that way. I still feel, I still see blue lights,
Wow.
It's still in my body. And so that is what folks need time to process about and with, and to sit with, and to familiarize yourself with, so that again you can learn how to have grace for it, and make space for it. And so that's what this week has been about.
So whatever the energy was that like he put into you, you also feel that, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like you said, trauma, it lives in our bodies.
Yes.
It is, it takes away, you know, your breath patterns. It can silence you. It can,
Yes.
um,
Yeah.
and it can ail you. It can, bring harm to. It could bring stomach pains and cramps, and it can manifest into boils, and and it's stress, right? And so, again, when you're able to really give yourself a little time, and to be in your resilience, and time to, again, just make room for it and take care of it, like while it's live and happening, it serves you a little, it buys you a little more time. And so that's what I was doing. I was just buying myself a little more time, so that I can be in my joy and in my satisfaction of what happened.
Right.
Right.
Right. That's right. That's right. I'm wondering, you've been doing this for a while. At one of the protests last week in front of the Atlanta City Hall, you actually sat on the steps because you're like, I'm gonna sit on these steps because I've been standing on them since 2015.
Yeah.
Right? Like, period. You're like, I've done this a lot. So since and because you've done this so much since 2015, I'm wondering how you feel about this moment. Does it feel different to you? Do you feel different than any of the previous waves of protest and outrage at our death? How does it feel for you right now?
That's a good question. I feel like, so, okay. So I definitely feel more confident, as we don't really talk about this as much, but when you are trans and you are an organizer and you are trans and you're like, being visible in your work and you are transitioning and you're learning about who you are, your side angles, what your is, well, all of the things. It is your skin. There was a time 5 years ago where, a lot of my work I didn't document or archive because I had horrible acne, right? And I was just so dysphoric about my presentation. And I don't necessarily have those same types of moments of dysphoria or just like moments of self-doubt as I used to. And so it allows me to show up in complete different ways in my work. So I would say that, like, I'm definitely more confident and more skilled. Also, again, not only is it just the piece around transitioning, but it's also practicing your craft, right? It's like practicing your skill. And so, being out here at different protests and supporting, different family members who've lost, folks due to police violence and interpersonal violence, I have a different kind of skin and energy when I enter into situations like that. So I think that those are like the main things. But I also see that people are more receptive of the possibility of like being wrong. And that is, and I just went somewhere I ain't really feel like going, but yes, I feel like people are more open to being accountable and just more curious about other people's experiences.
Who are you talking about? Are you talking about non-Black people? Are you talking about white people? Who are you talking about when you say they're more open to being accountable, more open? Who's the they?
That's what I was like. I got into something I didn't feel like going into.
Well, listen, you opened the door. You got to explain.
I know, girl. See, that's why I don't do the social media things. But no, cis people, and particularly Black cis men,
are open to listening and being led by Black trans women, you think?
Oh, you're gonna get me cussed out on this screen, girl.
All I'm doing is asking the questions that you're leading me to, Toni-Michelle.
I broke out into a sweat, honey.
Why are you breaking out to a sweat? You haven't said anything controversial. You haven't said anything controversial. What you said that's controversial, Toni-Michelle?
You said what?
What you said that's controversial, Toni-Michelle? Nothing.
I know, but you know, people do not believe that, honey. So, especially in a time where, girl, hold on, I got a fan. I'm having a hot flash.
What is okay? So now, what is provoking this reaction when you haven't done anything? Like, what is the thing? What is the thing that you're not saying? Because there's what you're reacting to is not anything that you've actually said. What you are reacting to is what you're actually.
Instagram Live. Don't meet me out on Instagram Live.
What you are reacting to. You have me hold on to my titties and shake them and try to name them. So listen.
I know, and then here I go sweating. Let me go slip.
So then, like, what is it that what are you not saying? Because that's the thing.
Yes. Okay, so I was supposed to do some homework that I didn't do for this call. And so I didn't do that homework. And so I feel like, damn, I can't really say this thing because I didn't take care of the thing before.
Michelle.
So, but let me tell you, I'm gonna tell you.
Okay.
You know of me. You know, I believe that last week I was really blessed. And like I said in my video, you know, I know that folks like Iana Dior and TT Dangerfield, I mean, the girls who are murdered by Black men do not get the grace that I received at that moment. And there are many girls who have. There are many girls who have and are able to tell the story of how they survived that kind of violence in a moment like that, whether it be between police or, you know, a lover or anything, right? And so I don't take that for granted. And so because that has happened to me and I was extended that grace, I'm able to see, for me, there's a little more possibility because I was able to see something different and experience something different. So now I know that something else is possible.
Right. So what you're saying is that one of the things that this experience has done for you is opened up the possibility of greater alliance, greater trust, greater possibilities to work together with Black cis men after this experience.
See, that's when I get a little, because I've actually always known that. And so it's like, it's saying that, like, you know, in this moment, it's actually not just because of this experience, it's because of my experiences with men, period, and also in our experiences with men from our cousins and uncles and all of them. There's some radical conversation, radical behavior shifts that need and can and have and can continue to happen to move us toward more clarity about how we be together, right? And I think that we have to, sometimes we have to, and so we're in a moment, I think, as Black folks, of like how we again extend grace to each other. And so I'm excited for how people experience that kind of grace in their life.
Let me ask one person who just is in the feed asked a really good question that I'm going to repeat, and I don't know. It's Luliana, I guess would be your handle. So if I didn't say it right, forgive me. But she asked you, do you think that being passable plays into the way that other Black cis men interact with you and thus creates these possibilities for coming together?
See, this is why I didn't want to say it, because I hate these conversations, but here we go. Absolutely. Yes, yes. And Amara knows this. And any of my other friends or folks who know me also know it is just my spirit. It is just my boundary and my light that I have. And I've also had to become more comfortable with that and own that as well, so that I can yield it in the ways that I need to in order to survive, in order to pump through and get what I need, and get what we need, so it's definitely a combination. It's definitely a combination. And I don't think we talk about the whole self enough. Even as trans people, we get into these passability politics and we like go back and forth, but we don't talk about then how is our behavior? Are we shitty ass people? Are we, like,
are we white people? Say that again. Are we white people?
I was like, not we as a whole, but Jesus, I hate these conversations.
This is actually a really good conversation.
Yes, thank you. But yeah, so just some self accountability, right? Just like, are my relationships not the way that I desire them to be, or am I not satisfied in my relationships? Am I accountable to things? Am I listening to the people I'm connected to? Am I being present? Am I giving them what they need, or am I giving them what I want to give them, right? It's like, it's still an exchange of like the human experience, and it's not always about, passing and transness. That is a barrier. But we talk about trans women, whether you passable or not, who have those deeper intimate relationships with men in different ways. Like, there's just more that comes with those kinds of relationships that we don't get to talk about. As Black trans women, we're often again, kind of our experiences like binary women, binary trans women are not oftentimes celebrated, right? But it's oftentimes we are the ones that are being harmed the most, because we are in these deeper connected relationships with cis men.
So let me just stop you. Let me just stop you there to clarify certain things, because you are casting light on what you were saying, but I want to clarify some points, and if I'm wrong, tell me. So it seems to me that one of the things that you're saying is one of the possibilities here in this moment is for these greater connections with Black cis men. But
let's just say people.
I don't believe in that. I don't believe in that. I believe in using the words that mean what you mean. So what we're gonna do is talk about what we mean. And you have already spoken about these deeper relations with Black men, so we're gonna keep talking about what we mean. We're not going to obfuscate, because that's not gonna help us get clarity and understanding, which is the whole point of conversation. Okay. So let me go back to my questions. So the possibilities with Black cis men, but one of the things that you're saying are two things I heard. One, but oftentimes as Black trans women, maybe we don't give Black cis men a chance to show up differently, right? That there is a greater possibility for them to be different than we allow, understanding that our experiences may have shaped that, but that there still is the need to be present to what the other person is giving you, and it may be totally different than what you think a Black cis men can bring, and if you don't recognize that, you'll miss the opportunity to create shifts, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's one thing right? That's correct.
That is very correct. And I wanted to add the caveat is that everything is not sexual.
Well, we're not talking about sexual. We're talking about like trust.
I know.
Right.
That's why I wanted to just say that.
And we're talking, and in this context, we're actually talking about trust in movement, because what you were talking about was the weight on the front line, facing the Georgia State Patrol, protesting the death of a Black man, the way that other Black men showed up for you, and the way that that's actually renewing or expanding your ideas of what's possible in terms of alliances with Black cis men, which I think is it's an important conversation, right?
It is. I know.
It's an important conversation. It's an important conversation. So that's one thing. Yes, Candace, trust in the movement. So that's one thing, like creating trust in the movement and other Black cis men. The other thing that you said that I thought was interesting is that this is a point where you alluded to, and I want to unpack it a little bit more because I think it's really fascinating. Because one of the things is that you also have said is, you know, one of the ways in which I have gotten insights from these men are actually having relationships with men, not the men in the movement. That's different. We're talking about like cis men, right? And you're talking about like, I have learned a lot. I've learned a lot from being with them in romantic partnerships and relationships, and some of those interactions with me has underscored that there are these possibilities that I'm talking about for this alliance, because I've seen it, I've lived it, I've loved it, right?
Yeah.
But the second thing that you said that I didn't quite understand is, but we sometimes bear something. You said something about bearing the brunt, or bearing the challenges of being with Black cis men, and I didn't quite understand that part. But I understood everything else you said.
Well, let's leave it there. I love that.
Okay. All right. That you don't. That's okay. You don't want to go there. But
no,
I
don't know. I don't remember myself, honey.
Okay. So let's keep it rolling. I mean, I think that's an interesting thing. So now I'm going to ask you, why are you so reticent to say that? Because you didn't say any. Because honestly, you didn't say anything that was controversial.
I know.
You actually just said some things that are based on your experience that, to me, whether or not those have been my experiences, when I hear you, I go, yeah, that makes sense. So why are you so reticent to say these things out loud?
Because, it's not the popular thing to say in this moment.
So what's the popular thing to say in this moment?
We want to, I'm petty and I'm funny and silly and all of that. So we want to hate people we want everybody to be the enemy so bad. We do. We really do. And like, honey, at this time, we don't have time. Baby, we have too much at stake. All of our lives.
100%.
Shout out to Amara, lives at stake.
Lives at stake. There's too much at stake.
All of our lives are at stake.
That's right.
And I believe that we have to get really excited and silly and goofy about all of the possibilities and different ways that we can be in connection, baby. And so it's just an unpopular thing to say. You know what, everyone, that was my homework. See, I knew I had to. So my homework assignment was to speak with someone who reshared the incident that happened and did not share the right story.
Okay.
And so I just think that right now, again, especially with the murders of so many girls, and yesterday there was a murder of a 17-year-old Black trans woman, I guess in that moment I felt like, how dare I, share with the world, kind of like, there was a little guilt and a little shame around surviving and around having a different experience and knowing. Yeah.
But we're not going to make progress unless we have real conversations about where we are and what our experiences are. That's what creates illumination, right? That's what creates the ability to be able to wake up. right? That's what allows us to educate, right? The Greek word of education is actually to bring out of ignorance, right? And the only way that you do that is through conversation. And I don't think that you should ever shy away. You should not ever shy away from saying what you really think and feel, because I think for so many reasons, as we see tonight, whatever that is, we need to hear it, right? We need to hear what you have to say, right?
Yes.
So, and it doesn't matter whether or not it's what other people want to hear, right? It's what people need to hear. That's not the same thing.
Yeah.
You know?
I know that. I know that, girl. Thank you, girl.
Thank you.
Big
And then,
sister Amara, come in, honey. Yeah.
it's so funny. Other people are coming in and saying that, like, thank you for speaking your truth. Candace said, really interestingly, that you talk like the abolitionist you are, right? Which I think is really important, because, sometimes we think that abolition is just the way that we want it to be, right? That is just for Black people. But someone actually posted the other day, they said, all of y'all thinking that these cops ought to go to jail while you're calling for abolition, that's not abolition, because we want abolition for everybody. The abolition is a culture, right? It's not about shifting power.
I love that, because I think that is one of the conversations that we have to have as Black trans folks, in a time where we are experiencing so much violence, right?
Right.
It's like, how do we call for abolition when there are men who continuously murder us, and
it's really tough
toward us? Where do they go right now? And so I know that is a real conversation that needs to be had. I know that there are true feelings about it. And, I believe in, restorative justice. I believe in, in forgiveness. I believe in a good old healing process, baby. Oof, I love a good healing process. Whew, I just get chills thinking about mine. Hallelujah.
Oh, Lord. Are you about to shout, Toni-Michelle? Do we need to get you a white sheet or something? Are you about to fall out?
I'm not that kind of girl.
Okay.
Just let me go outside, honey. Let me be naked, shake my titties in the woods. That's
and get connected. Get
connected. I don't need.
I think that is a really hard issue. That's a hard thing, right? Like, how do we hold Black men accountable? How do we hold Black men accountable, right? Because we do need them to be allies, one thing. And how do we support their healing without thinking that it's our job to heal them?
Absolutely. And, I was talking to Raquel Willis about this, like, briefly. I was doing a live of my own, and I was talking about trusting Black men. And I was actually using examples of, like, my partner and I, and, the men that are in my family, the men that are in my life. So I have lots of, male best friends who are, gay men, Black gay men, and I have straight friends from high school who are still in my life. I got, some pieces down the street, who are my friends, the dude at the corner store, stuff like that, right? So we were just talking about what does it mean for me, in particular, what does it mean for me to trust my friends to show up for me? And I was using an example 2 weeks before the incident with police happened. I was at an event, And I started, it was a solutions event, and Black folks were coming together in Atlanta on Edgewood to talk about what are the solutions. So, you know, of course, as an organizer, I had a petition ready for folks to sign around, you know, closing the jail and making sure that the budget reflects that for 2021 in Atlanta. And yeah, when I started speaking about that work and started to talk about the history of that work was done with the support of Black women who've been formerly incarcerated and Black trans queer folks. Oh, baby, I said Black trans and LGBT. They nearly had a heart attack in the audience, honey. And, and they started booing me off the stage and doing all kinds of verbal crazy things. And the piece is that I was there at the event for a Black cishet person, Gerald Grace in particular, who's the president of the Atlanta chapter of the NAACP, who invited folks to come to this event. And so I showed up to this event, and he did not say anything to protect me, to move people away from me, or to support the work that we've done. And he's been present, right? Had been present for most of that work, right? Particularly around marijuana reform in Atlanta and ending cash bail in 2018. And so I told my best friend, and he was like, I'm about to call him right now. No, Gerald, that's not going down. So I was upset. I was like, don't call him. I'm not ready because I want to cuss him out. And I'm just not ready to deal with all of that yet. And he was like, let me do it my way. I need to do it my way. Because I'm your big brother, and this is how I want to do it. And I need to tell him that he's wrong. I need to check him. I need to figure out what the fuck is going on. And I had to move through myself because I was like, you know, at the end of it, that's actually what I really wanted. I wanted somebody to care enough to just
stand up for you.
Stand up for me. And I, everything in my body was not allowing him to do that. And so, again, what did it mean for me to take his role and responsibility of what he knows of how to be a brother or how to be a support or a friend to me? I took that role away. I was in the act of taking that role away from him, right? And as a Black woman, how violent is that? How violent is that? When the roles that they know or the roles that they think they know, they're doing it, and we continue to snatch it away from them. And they snatch it away from themselves as well. Let's be clear.
Yeah, I think, I think for me, what's interesting about what you're saying is, I always say all the time that, like, ultimately we have to have Black men police other Black men because they're the only ones that they care about.
Period.
Right, period. It's true. It's true. Like, Black men may sometimes model themselves after white men because they want the same thing that white men have, but they actually only care. They actually only care about what other Black men say about them. They don't care about what nobody else says. Right. So ultimately, if Black male culture is going to change, it has to change through what happened for you, which is a Black man calling another Black man and being like, no, this isn't cool. This isn't, no. So that's one thing. And then the not allowing, right? It goes back to what I was saying before. It's actually not about trusting, right? Like when you're like, no, don't do this, like a part of you is not trusting what is happening. Right. It's a resistance to what's happening, you know? Yeah, and so that's also that. I think that that's true. Yeah, I mean, this is such a complicated topic. What I just believe is that everybody gets to be held accountable for how they act and how they behave. And I think that so many times we as Black women actually massage, shade, allow for Black men to behave a certain way without actually holding them accountable. And I think that accountability is key to cultural change as well. So it's like the pressure for accountability on the one hand, which is kind of where I am, but the possibility for change when they show up, right? Like when they're ready, we allow them to be different.
How have you held the Black men in your life accountable?
Not fuck with them anymore. How do I hold Black men in my life accountable? Well, I think one is that I call them on their shit. Like I pull them aside and I be like, you're doing that thing of being an asshole. Like I had a big, basically,
asshole is a really sensitive word for some people.
Why?
Because, sometimes people are actually having different intentions, It's a trigger, I'm telling you.
So in any event, they were being an asshole. So like and so what I was gonna say is that like I literally hold them. To me, accountability is saying, this is what you did, this is how I experienced it, and this is why it's hurtful. And this is honestly, wait a minute, is what you looking at, Toni-Michelle? What you looking at, Toni-Michelle?
What happened?
Because you picked up that sippy cup and you looked like somebody came into the room.
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. So the thing is that like, and then I tell them that that is just totally unacceptable, and that it's just unacceptable. Like you can't behave that way. So that's actually what accountability to me looks like. Is actually saying, and then not shouting or whatever, but just laying it out matter of factly, like this is not acceptable behavior. It's not acceptable. You can't do that. You can't act like that.
How do you know that then? How do you know that then you're how do you know that then you're satisfied then? By you just saying that, is that then accountability? Then what is the quality and how they receive it that then
Well,
that something has transformed or shifted inside of them, or that accountability, or that then they are accountable?
Right. So sometimes it has shifted, right? Sometimes it does lead to an apology and a change in behavior over time. And then sometimes my accountability sometimes is just not being in a relationship with me. Like that is something that I do as well. So like,
period.
Yeah, period. And like, there's nothing more for me to do because that's my accountability. That's the way I hold you accountable. It's like, okay, well, this is it, and you don't understand, or you continue to do the same thing, or you're not respecting me, so we don't need to fuck with each other anymore. It's not that complicated.
Yeah.
And that's what accountability, and I think that the thing is that like, too many people don't hold them accountable by saying no in a real way. Like especially Black men don't get told no enough by Black women. People will tell them all the things that they're not, which I don't do. That's bullshit. You're not this, you're not that. Why am I with you? Because you're not. Like that's just toxic and negative, right? So I don't do that, but I will. But I think that not enough Black women say no to them.
What are some things we need to say no to? I can't see all of the comments on here because I want to ask people in the audience, what are some things that we need to say no to?
I can see them, and I can. People are saying preach. Some people are saying, like agree, just like agreeing. What are the things that we need to hold them accountable for? I mean, okay, do you have another hour? Like, oh shit, we only have 37 seconds remaining. So what I'm gonna do? What I'm going to do is this is going to run out, and then I'm going to dial you back in, and we'll answer that question, and then we'll close the live. Okay? But I think that's so anybody who has comments about what we ought to change, make sure you put them in the next iteration. I'm going to end this live and start it again. Okay?
Again, what do we need to say no to?
Yes.
Yes.
In Black men.
In Black men. Yes.
All right. See you in a minute.